What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official console creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvar, and alongside me, as always, my good pal Bobby. How the heck are you this week?
Oh, you're starting with me. Okay, I'm good.
course.
Could be better because we have a guest that we just scrounged out from the bottom of the cupboards and the pillows, and he was like a crumb. He was a chip crumb in my couch, and we found him.
He's like a house hippo.
No. We like house hippos. He's more of the what's the Goosebumps book where the sponge under the sink?
I think so.
It's a sponge under the sink that keeps growing. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pleasant. That's super pleasant. Yeah. I mean, Dave, you're also
we're in Halloween mood. I'm happy to see him. I'm just being
Goosebumps 30. It came from beneath the sink.
There we go. I knew it was a little sink title. Yeah.
Dave, how are guys? You? Hi, I'm good. Also, the pillow would imply that I'm actually getting some sleep, which I still am not. But
this pillow.
Well, Bobby said something about a pillow, so. Although I guess he mentioned
the pillow on the couch. Yeah, no, that's all.
couch cushions. I got one of those in my chair. A little thing.
Yeah. Took me a second to catch up. Yeah. I can do that.
I'm moving at the speed of light, man. With the energy I don't have, I'm moving at the speed of light. Yeah.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah.
It's great.
Right?
It's great to finally form the triforce once again. I feel like Link. We're ready to take on Ganon now.
Is that what the kids do? What is that? Hands.
This is or the Illuminati. I'm not.
That's what that is. Yeah. The Illuminati. If anyone's not watching, I mean, it's still a triangle, but is it like the kids still do the little heart thing in the camera too with their hands?
No. So what they do is they do this with the
pinch.
No, well, it's supposed to form a heart. I do it really poorly because my fingers are sausages. But they put their index and thumb together and they make little hearts and they go right for the video.
You know what we call those people? Nerds.
Okay.
That could have gone any which way.
I mean, that's also us. Just with
I was ready to just hit stop record on this one.
Fair enough. There was a 50-50 on that one.
It really was. But no, we have a fantastic episode ahead of us because we're all playing games. It's gaming season, baby.
Yeah.
We're in the throes of it. We're in the throes of fall. We got some spooky games. We got some really big tentpole marquee games for October. I'm stoked to talk about it all. But I'm going to throw it over to Bobby first because, Bobby, I'm pretty sure you've been playing one of the same games as I have this past week, and the game that both of us got to play out in SGF. It's Amazon Games' New World Aeternum. I know we talked about briefly in the past. I'm just kind of curious. Just a little touch base here. How's your time going with this MMO?
So, full disclosure, I actually didn't review this game, this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We did publish a review today, but I dabbled in the beta 2 or 3 times. It was basically the full game is out today from Amazon Games. From my beta period to what it is now, it's basically a 1-to-1 transition, so there's nothing really was missing. But go play New World Aeternum. It is a free MMO. You can play on console now, on Xbox and PC and PlayStation, and honestly, it's probably the most fun I've had with MMO since FF14, which is a paid game. So if you don't want to pay for an MMO, this is definitely the one you should invest in because it's just it's a really fun loop. I mean, it's basically hack and slash. You do your management, you go to towns, you fight monsters, you collect items, you build stuff, and that's the basic loop of it. But I mean, I'm only about 12 hours in. I mean, it's basically scratching the surface, but. I mean, if you played an MMO, you know what you're getting into. That gameplay loop is just really refined in this game. And Amazon Games was very adamant about transitioning this game to consoles, and they did a really great job. I mean, it looks outstanding. I like the music. I think the combat's probably as good as FF14, which is saying a lot because that's probably the prime example of a good MMO.
Yep.
I'm gonna stick with it. The problem is Thorn and Liberty is also out, which I have started, which I've actually spent more time in recently, but they're competing games that launch within a week of each other, and they're both incredible MMOs that are free to play on console. It's just, yeah, it's just, do you want to play a lineage sequel, or do you want to play like a refined PC MMO that's come to console finally, and with a new world Aeternum? But yeah, I don't know, Steve. Like, what do you think? Like, I feel like the world is probably my favorite aspect of it.
Sure.
Really colorful.
Yep.
A lot to do. There's a lot of cool enemy designs. I feel. I like the classes. I believe I stuck with the mage. I like the mage.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Know what I was doing. I started with I can't remember the name of it, but it was God, I can't remember. It was God. What's the? It's one of the starting classes. It was just like a bruiser. I did the
Okay.
I was just trying to remember it, but yeah, I stuck with those two in my beta, and then I brought them over to this, and it's just been a really good way to unwind your night. Like, I know Dave plays Diablo to unwind, which to me because it's the most chaotic game in the world, but I go to New World, and it's just been a great.
It can be somewhat mindless. I think that's the
super
thing.
mindless.
Like,
Yeah.
In some ways,
really?
I think so. Yeah. Like if you have a certain loop, like, oh, I'm pressing, I mean, on the keyboard, I'm like, oh, W, okay, Q, okay, E, okay, R, okay, left, right click, left.
It just gets
like
too chaotic for me. It's just like I was playing
it
last
can
night.
be.
It
definitely
was
can be.
This is too much. I was playing on
Yeah.
tier 2 or tier 3, something like that. But like, it was just so chaotic, and I was just like, this is too much to play, just like mindlessly, and I have to like focus. But
early on, you have to focus a lot more than I think you do.
Yeah.
I mean, late game, post game, sort of like post campaign sort of stuff. I think you have to focus a bit too, depending on your builds and stuff. But I agree, it's chaotic, but there's a certain sweet spot that you can hit. You just have to get to that point first. And anyways, New World, go ahead.
Yeah, New World. I mean, I'm gonna stick with it. So I'm just pulling up. Actually, so I was just gonna pull up the review, but it's actually really, like I said, it's really refined. We tested it at Summer Game Fest. It was there. It was a big talking point throughout the festival. I know that a lot of people that played it loved it. It's just a good time. Like, honestly, there's not much else I can say about it. Like, I'm gonna sink more time into it. That's basically my big thing. The problem is I've been juggling like 4 or 5 games right now, 3 of which I can't talk about. The 2 I can talk about. One I published the review this week. The other one is just on the way. But yeah, like what I did play, I spent about 35 hours, 40 hours with the beta, and about 10 hours with the official launch. And like I feel like it's good. Like, the archetypes are cool. Like, I do like the weapons. I feel like the classes are distinct enough that they don't play the same. Like, they do handle a lot differently. The frame rate's good. I feel like the leveling system's good. I think I got one character level 50, which is the max, and that was I think it was my mage, but it's there. Like, you have a lot of replayability. Like, if you want to switch your classes, you can switch your classes. If you want to start a new character, you can do that. Like, it's just a really good, really refined MMO. Amazon Games knocked it out of the park on this, and like, I'm glad that they brought this game to console, because it is probably one of the more outlier games that I've played this year that I feel like is not going to get enough attention. So I feel like this transition to console is going to help them a lot, because, like I said, it's a free-to-play game. It's really good, and that's all you really need in the game. That's all you need today in playing games. I mean, some people are tired of Fortnite. Some people are tired of Apex Legends. Like, this is a good way to bridge yourself off battle royales into something a little bit more social and community driven, because there are some really cool communities there. Like, you can join a lot of them to kind of work together to complete your goals. Like, it's fun. It's generally just a fun game.
I do want to just correct you, just in case people listen and get caught up. It is a paid game. New World Aeternum is paid.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yes,
that's my bad.
No worries. I know it gets tricky when we're talking about live service, MMOs, stuff like this. Usually now the standard is free to play, but no, it's $81 here in Canada. 50.
Gotcha.
59, I believe, in the US. I just looked at it, but
my fault. I was going off what that's my fault. I was going off what one of our press releases said, and I think it's talking about the open beta that was last week. That's probably what I was referring to. But yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
no worries. I just want to save you from comments and stuff like that. For me, when I first played this at SGF, it was kind of like an eye-opening experience for me. I traditionally like MMOs, but you know, now in my 30s, who has the time when games are popping up every couple weeks and stuff like that? It's really hard for me to want to invest myself into a new MMO, and two, especially with the MMO part, is convince friends to play with me and keep up with me and not feel like I'm falling behind versus them. And it's a job unto itself. And that's the whole reason why I never fell in love with ESO the way that I really wanted to. I love Elder Scrolls, really love the gameplay of Elder Scrolls Online. But again, a month in, I had friends that were just like blazing past me and then kind of just left me in the dust because work got on the way and stuff like that. So I've always kind of put my foot on the brake of kind of investing into a new MMO. And finally, with New World Aeternum, Amazon was very adamant of like, no, this is a game that not only are we bringing to consoles, we're refining the gameplay so that it can be played on a traditional hand or controller. That's perfect. But it's a game that you can actively play by yourself. You're never going to feel like, oh, I'm missing out on content. I can't do this. I'm blocked out of this X, Y, and Z because I'm only playing by myself. The entire game, New World Aeternum, can be played on your own, and that's what attracted me to it. So I'm super stoked on it. Sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
Sorry, that's the big thing. That's what I was going to mention. It is fully playable by yourself. Just a comparison. Like I've been playing FF14 for the past couple years, not as dedicated as some people, but on and off. And like that game, it began as a game where you have to play with other people. They've slowly transitioned to making a solo experience, which is great. You can play New World by yourself the entire way through. And just to confirm, there's no subscription. That's what I was thinking about. So there's no subscription. You're paying outright. You're just paying the initial whatever it is, $89. This is one of those MMOs where there's no subscription fee. So you buy one,
and that in itself is unique
huge,
for an MMO.
Right? Like you're not paying $15 a month to play this game. But yeah, I mean that in itself is a huge thing, right? Like you're getting over 100 and even 200-hour plus content in this game for $100. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and so I get into the review period, which again they're like, okay, it's this closed bubble, your character won't carry over and everything like that. I was like, that's totally fine. I'll invest a fair amount of time just to kind of get into it. We've been here before with progression not carrying over. But then I ran into a couple roadblocks where the first night I played for probably like 5 hours. I was like, oh, I'm going to go for the hammer build, which is the same build I played at SGF. I was like, cool, get into a couple missions. You're doing what Bobby said. It's your standard MMO. You're going out, you're doing quests for people, you're bringing back, you're getting a lot of progressional items and loot, and you're crafting material.
Collecting pelts and bringing back pelts and rocks, flint, and stones and flint.
Yeah, and you're creating weapons, you're creating items, healing items. It's such a gameplay loop that I really like. I love seeing.
Yeah, there's no problem with it. It's just like when you said basic, typical stuff, I was like, that's the first thing that comes to mind.
That's the first thing that
you don't do that in other games. Like it's been in other games, but that's
it does avoid the hey, go into the basement and kill these rats for me mission, which is 90% of the online games, online RPGs. So I had a blast with it that first night. I was like, cool, this is awesome. I saved my game. I logged off, come back the next day. I was like, let's go. Me and Hammer Bro, we're coming back. My character's deleted and it's just not even there. I was like, shit. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's re-roll. Let's try a different character. So I went with the standard, sword wielder or whatever. Same thing again. Unfortunate. You gotta have to go through the same quests and everything, but I'm getting different loot. I'm doing it at a much more rapid pace because I'm just flying through dialogue at this point. Like it has an interesting story, but not a story that I want to experience a second time through. So I did that. And I played, I basically sat in my living room for probably 6-8 hours one day because I was like, I don't have anything else going on. I'm just kind of really enjoying the gameplay. Went through it. I made sure this time I'm going to go through the options, make sure I log off safely, wait for the spinning wheel or whatever to stop. Cool. I can shut my Xbox down. Next day I come back, character's deleted. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I will wait until it's fully launched in a state where I can feel more confident that I'm going to invest more time into this game before I touch this ever again. Because I have to replay it again, which I guess I would have to do anyways because progression doesn't carry over. But at least now I have I assume more assurance that my character is just not going to get wiped from oblivion. But it was unfortunate because it did put a damper on me seeing more of the game because there's only a finite amount of time that I can put into the pre-launch build and stuff like that. And yeah, I just didn't want to keep rolling new characters, getting to a certain point, walking away from it, and then all of a sudden, boop, your character's gone, all your progression's gone. So
Yep.
boop. That being said, boop. That being said, I really do enjoy it. I think, yeah, it is going to be a game that's kind of always on my game bar, something that I could just pop into, play a couple quests here and there. Don't really feel like I'm falling behind if I'm not playing it, holistically, if I'm not keeping up with it every single day. But I love the gameplay. I love the world. I think that what they did to bring a massive MMO onto a console is no easy feat and make it run really well. I mean, yes, some of the characters and animations look a little janky, but when you have a game this large and this ambitious running at scale like this, of course you're not going to get, Last of Us looking graphics, but the performance is really good. Had no issues on that. And yeah, it's just a game that I think I'm going to just keep on the back burner for the rest of the year, maybe into the next year. But I'm looking forward to playing it more in a more secure and hopefully stable way now.
Now,
yeah, those
MMOs, like this question for both you guys, I guess. You
Yeah.
guys are saying that it's a lot of fun, right? You're
Mm.
saying it's great to play and whatever, friends or not, solo,
Yep.
multiplayer, whatever. I'm looking at some of the video while you guys are talking and taking a peek at the review and stuff like that. And like, it's MMO, I think automatically is like, oh, it's your skill bar at the bottom and you're firing off your skills. And it's very much like, oh, press 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, and just like cycle through your skills. Yeah. And you're kind of like not standing still, but it's more just like you're managing your skill bar more than you are doing action on the ground, so to speak. Like, I know it's a very old school way of thinking about it, but that's automatically what comes to mind is like the old school way of World of Warcraft, for example. I mean, that's not just what World of Warcraft is. It definitely started that way, and old school MMOs did. This is obviously not that. This is much more action oriented and stuff. It looks like you're rolling around and you have a melee and a ranged weapon. Like, what does it feel like when you're actually like, what's the closest comparison to like a game that it feels like? Is it looks pretty good, but it doesn't look like anything that would like blow my socks off. I don't know, but that's just looking at video. So that's,
yeah, I feel like you're kind of on the nose there, where it is almost like any kind of action adventure game where you do have your standard melee attacks. You can pull out a ranged weapon, do that. I think the interesting thing is that, yeah, you have, like, for instance, the hammer guy, he has a full skill tree that's unique to him. You're unlocking different moves and skills and stuff like that. But then you can also alternate to so the hammer guy has his two-handed hammer, and then you can switch by pressing like Y on the Xbox controller over to an axe, and that axe class has a whole different skill set that you can use as well.
Nice.
So it becomes this whole thing of like, yeah, to your point, you have your standard, attacks that you can just, flail around and spam. You have your more unique attacks that have a cooldown. But then once you're waiting for those cooldowns to happen, you swap to your other weapon, start doing the same thing over again. Then it's like, okay, I'm waiting for that cooldown to cool down. I'm going to swap back to my hammer, do that stuff. So it's not brand new in any means, but I think that it does enough. It has enough there to make it feel fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. That sounds cool. So yeah. Okay.
There's never any time to like just, be passive. Like, you're always doing something, whether it's double combat.
That's cool. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Like, it's not, and I feel like it's involved enough. Like, you're not just mashing the button. Like, you kind of do have to plan what you're going to do, make sure you're well equipped, make sure you have the right tools to fight bosses. It's not just like it's not mindless. And like, that's kind of what I feel is the biggest deterrent a lot of MMOs, which is always like, they felt mindless. And like, this doesn't have that gimmick where it's just, smash and see numbers go up. Like, the combat is somewhat involved, but it's basic. It's still basic enough where it's just like, I kind of see why it has to be basic. It's just too much going on.
Well, easy to understand is always a bonus too. Like, that's a good thing, right?
It's very easy to understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything's cool. Like, it plays well. Like, it translates to console well. Like, on a controller, there's not much more you could ask for. Like it is all like a 1-for-1 transition from a keyboard and mouse to a laptop. Like it's pretty cool that they're able to figure all that to 12 buttons.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that can be hard to do. Can be hard to do when there's a lot going on. But very action focused is always a good thing. So at least for me, anyway.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I recommend people check it out if they're at all interested or have been interested in New World and kind of just have been waiting for something a little more accessible and maybe on console now. So yeah.
Alternatively, just to cap end it, Throne Liberty, I did mention that one is actually free. That is free. It is a Lineage sequel, so if you like Lineage, play it. It is really cool. I'm seeing a lot of people online posting like their builds, posting their character classes, and like some of the end game stuff, and like it looks really cool. Like it has a really cool character creator. Similar gameplay, but it's a South Korean made MMO. So like if you like those kind of MMOs, it's more of that, but just really cool on console. So yeah, it's out now. Definitely, you have choice to play. Like honestly, if you don't want to spend the money, this is a good alternative.
Very nice. Love that. I do want to pivot over to Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Anyone been playing this? Anyone been playing this with me?
I don't know what a Dragon Ball is. I don't know. What is this? I don't know. I don't get it. What is it? No, definitely not. No, not playing it. No, I say that because like anytime it's brought up, the only thing that I can think of is, every once in a while a Dragon Ball episode would be on when I was waiting for like, I don't know. Speaking of Goosebumps show to be on, and Dragon Ball was on just before or just after school. Yeah. Like it was never something that I ever really watched or anything.
Oh, so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those real big blank spots. I could tell you what some of the characters look like, and I definitely know like Goku and like the main guys from, I don't even know which Dragon Ball it is, but that's it. That's my experience. So if you guys have played it, great. Or you guys follow Dragon Ball, great. But I am it's like that and Doctor Who are like the two like big.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Who.
But those are the two things that I know people love, and there's millions of people that love them. I have next to no experience on both of those properties. So
that's so fair. I mean, for me, Dragon Ball is kind of the one exception to my no anime rule. I'm not really into anime all that much. I've never really. I have a profound respect for the art style and stuff like that, but yeah, Dragon Ball was the only real one aside from like maybe Pokemon, Digimon, and stuff like that. But Dragon Ball was the one where I was like, oh shit, this is wicked. But Sparking Zero was the game that I didn't really have on my radar coming up to release. I was like, again, I'm not really a huge fighting game person outside of platform fighters like Smash and multiverses. So I was like, hey, I'm really happy for friends who are into this, who are.
I'm happy for you guys.
I am. I'm excited for you guys to have a new Dragon Ball game. I played Fighter Z, and that was fun, but that was more of like a 2D plane kind of thing. So that was fun onto itself. But I kind of walked away from that pretty early. But Sparking Zero, I got a code for it and started playing it over the weekend. And at the first 2 nights, I was like, oh, there is no way in hell I'm playing this game because of the difficulty spike. And it's because this game handles so radically different from any other fighting game I think I've played in the last 10 years that there's a specific fight that you play early on in the Goku saga that I'm just like, this is my Dark Souls moment. This is when I feel like, someone like Dave or someone who just does not play Dark Souls games and they're playing Sekiro for the first time and they're like, what the hell is this? No. And that's exactly what happened to me, where it was 2 nights of it. I messaged Matt, host of PlayStation Generation. I was like, dude, you got to help me with this. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And he's like, go to the training grounds, learn some of get some of the tutorial, get some of the basics down and everything. And I did that. I went back to this specific boss, and for people who don't know, it's a grade 8 Vegeta. It's when Vegeta gets into big monkey form, and he just has the worst hitboxes in a fighting game. It blows my mind that Bandai Namco greenlit this fight because it is so broken. It's so frustratingly bad. And then the game gets instantly better after doing that. I beat that fight by like just cheesing it, just spamming it. I'm doing like, Kamehamehas from like across the map and everything. I'm literally fighting by the skin of my teeth. And all of a sudden I get through it. And then I don't know, everything just kind of clicks with normal fights, like normal one-to-one fights, where I was like, oh, I understand the fundamentals. I understand the deeper levels here. And I'm just having an absolute blast with this game now. But for 2 nights, I had my head up against a wall. I was like, there's no way I'm playing this game. Like, it's just not happening. I don't have the juice. I don't want the smoke here. It's not happening. Bobby, you said you've been playing it, right?
Yeah, but not as dedicated as you. I've only got
Okay.
3 or 4 hours, but yeah, the one thing I can always say is to do the training with Piccolo, because it is so important to master those skills, because there's just so many techniques and
Yep.
small little nuances to the combat that you will not get if you're just, you know, jumping into the story mode. Because, like, honestly, everyone's beginning getting rocked, and I know that maybe 50 to 60% just jumped in. Those
That would
those
be me
training
too.
sessions are
Yeah.
so important. Like, they're just so important to get them down. Like, I love just like the advanced stuff where you're learning how to do like dragon smash and then instant transmission behind somebody to you know, counter whatever they're doing. That is the best thing, and that's where I kind of stopped. So I got through halfway through the Saiyan saga, and I had to stop just because I'm just covered in games. That's the way I have to put it. But it is the true successor to Budokai Tenkaichi, and if you've played those games on PS2, they are just phenomenal. Like, this follow up has been 15 years in the making, and it feels like it was yesterday that we're playing these games. But overall, like, honestly, I'm surprised that we're getting this game. I never expected we actually would see this sequel, because, you know, it's been so long. But I'm glad that Bandai Namco like did the right thing, and instead of getting a Fighters 2 game, which, as much as I love Fighters, this is like this is the original arena brawler. This is what inspired so many of them. This is what people have yearned for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
The roster's incredible. There are a couple of things I'm just like, there's just too many Gokus. That's the only thing my complaint is.
So
just
true.
like,
Yeah.
like, we don't need that many Gokus. Like, I would have loved just like 80% of the roster, and then the ability just to create your own brawler.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
Like, just a way to just keep people playing. Like, honestly, that's probably my one.
That would get me interested, even though I have no investment in this property at all. To create your own fighter in a game that looks like this,
you can make little Dave in there.
Be great. It'd be great. I would kick ass with fajitas. It'd be awesome. It'd be so cool.
Like, obviously Xenoverse, you can do that, right? And it's not the same, but like, I mean, I would love to create your own brawler. Obviously the story mode's the same. Like, you're just at this point, like, we all know what the whole dearth of Dragon Ball Z is. Like, we know what the storylines are.
Well, except for one of us.
I do not.
Well, I mean, that
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
That's actually offensive. That's very offensive to me if you've never watched Dragon Ball.
Then my job is done here.
Like, you should go to jail for that. Like,
signing off.
Yeah. If you don't watch Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, like, you have to go to jail. That's basically what I feel like.
I never have, and likely it will. That probably.
Do you have 80 hours?
No, I don't have 8 hour.
Well, shit. I mean, I feel like
this.
I
this
feel
is
like
my hour.
My biggest concern is that you'll never be able to show your son what a good show is.
Oh, you're gonna make it about that, are you? Huh?
Yeah.
No, it's okay. He's gonna grow up a Ninja Turtles kid. Is
he gonna be a Bluey kid too?
He's gonna talk to women. That's what he's gonna do.
Fair enough.
He's gonna leave the house unlike his father.
Yeah, he's gonna go touch grass.
No,
he doesn't have time for anime. Come on. He's gonna go shower.
He's gonna.
Fair enough. But,
let's be real. Come on.
It's fine.
I can't.
One day you're gonna walk in on him.
Just kidding, but not really.
That's fine. One day you're gonna walk in and he's gonna be playing Dragon Ball, and you're gonna be like,
That's a proud moment, though. Yeah. That's a proud.
Dude, honestly, like I may have no investment in this property at all, but man, this game just looks insane. Everything that's going, not playing it, it's really hard to sort of wrap your head around the chaos of what it looks like and everything, for sure. But like, it just looks so freaking sharp. It's unreal
I,
how it
I think
moves and what it looks like. Holy
I,
shit.
I think one of the coolest things is that it nails that, and stick with me here. It nails that feeling of like being a kid again and having two action figures and just like knocking them together and just like having that like visceral fun when you get into like the gameplay loop of being able to, yeah, what Bobby was saying, shooting off a Kamehameha and then doing instant transportation right behind the enemy, or like dodging their attacks and doing like the quick like transportations around them and everything and deking them out. Like when you're doing true authentic like Dragon Ball shit, that's the time when the game just like, I'm seeing like the ones and zeros of the Matrix right now, and I'm just locked in on such a level that's really what's propelling me and driving me there. The other cool thing that I think, and to Bobby's point before, is like anyone that's grown up with Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, we know the stories. We played countless games where it's like, okay, let's recap the entire, core story. This is the first one that really recaps the super story, the latest like anime run, which is cool. The other cool thing is that it incorporates this whole what if scenario. So you're going through like key points of the anime and making decisions whether or not you can beat a certain fighter in a certain amount of time. If you're making pivotal decisions of, hey, I'm going to go into this fight with Piccolo, which is the canon decision. That's what Goku went and fought, Raditz with and everything. Or do you go by yourself and it turns into this whole, like snaking like offshoot, which inevitably wraps back into the main canon. But it's just kind of cool to kind of get these offshoot fights and stuff like that, which you'd never see in any other game. You wouldn't see ever in the canon and stuff like that. So it feels like a very, very fleshed out version of a Dragon Ball game we've never gotten before.
And that's exactly what it is. I mean, there are obviously games you can relate to. Raging Blast is a good one. And even farther back, like Budokai Tenkaichi. Those are probably the two closest comparisons. But like, they're within enough of comparison. Like they're pretty similar in that regard. So like honestly, like, don't feel afraid. You have to listen to everything. You can skip stuff. I mean, nothing will compare to the anime if you're new to the property, which I feel is really rare. Just watch the anime. Like that's where you're gonna get the best experience. You're gonna get the most authentic performances. I feel like sometimes, like because these actors are doing this thing every couple of years or repeating the same storylines, like it kind of just it's just like the specialness is gone. So if you're unfamiliar with Dragon Ball, just go watch the anime. You'll get that original like uniqueness to the series that I feel like is where people relate to the most. Is the anime. It's not the games. It's to the anime. So like go watch that and then go play this. To your point, the what if stuff, I did one of them, I believe, and that one was really cool, which is the Vegeta and Goku one. I obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but it's that fight they have during the Saiyan saga. Like it, instead of what happens later on, it happens earlier. It's a cool shake up. But yeah, I mean that's probably the coolest stuff. Is just the what ifs. Like those are probably the most unique bits of this game. But everything else, like outside of the combat, you've seen it before. So like, I mean, don't feel like you have to watch it. You can skip it if you really want to.
Yeah. No, but overall, I'm glad that it's finally clicked for me. It's a game, again, just like New World, that I'll keep having on the back burner for the time being, going through the different sagas, seeing the storylines of all these. I think there's like 21 character stories that you get to play through. So there's a whole ton of content in here if you're a fan, whether or not you're new or old. But yeah, if you're interested in a good fighter, this is one. Just keep in mind that one fight, that one Grade Ape Vegeta fight, is one of the worst inclusions in a video game in such a long time. I'm baffled.
Is it early on? Like how early on, in case people are worried about it hitting them? Like...
First hour.
Oh, first hour. Oh,
first night. I like, you go through the tutorial and it's like, oh, here's some basic movement skills. I was like, cool. I guess that's it. I guess I have like the basic fundamentals, and it'll kind of teach you along the way and stuff like that. And you go through what, 1, 2. It's the
5 or 6
fight. Or maybe 5 or 6, but at maximum.
couple hours is still pretty soon for something like that to happen. Yeah.
Legit, it was less than 2 hours, and I was like, "Oh, I've hit the wall." Like, if this is the precedent of, like, what's coming next, I can't play this game.
Son of a bitch.
I put it down, came back the night after, I was like, "I can't do this." The 3rd day coming back to the game, I was like, "Okay, I'm doing the tutorials, I'm doing the training, I'm going through getting the advanced training, learning," yeah, what Bobby was saying earlier. Finally, I beat him, just, just cheesing him and everything, and then like the mountain of difficulty just goes back down, and it's just fine after. It's a
So
normal game.
strange.
Like,
Weird decision.
there's even a moment where, like, if you lose enough times in any given battle, it's like, oh, do you want to reduce the difficulty? And if you do that, it gets rid of, any kind of, optional objectives to unlock the what if paths. And it's like, okay, if you want to play on easy, you can do that just to get through. You'll continue through the canon. And I was like, fine, just get me through this match. I don't care. I don't care about what happens. That didn't do anything. Like, I feel like it's such a broken match. I hope that they patch it, because I've talked to other people, other colleagues within the industry who know fighting games, and they're all like, this is terrible. Like, it's really bad. And
Yeah.
I'm not even just like doing this for like a troll or anything like that. Like, I just feel like the scaling of difficulty that early on in a game like this is not really fair.
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. But aside from that, impeccable gameplay, impeccable visuals, as you were saying, Dave. And yeah, I look forward to playing more of it.
It is definitely the best in at least 10 years. Like, it's been quite a while since we got an arena brawler that's Dragon Ball. That's really good. So yeah, like, honestly, 3 million copies in one day is
Huge.
telling,
Crazy,
right?
man. Crazy numbers. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm going to put the spotlight on you. It's spooky season. We've been playing a game separately, but we've been playing the same game, Retro Realms, Halloween and Ash versus the Evil Dead, a wonderful side scroller based on 2 iconic properties. Tell me about it, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts. This was a delight going into the Google Docs today and seeing you're playing this too.
Yeah, when they announced this, like, a couple months ago, a few months ago, when they first announced it, I was like, ooh, that's a cool idea. Take those characters. I mean, I'm especially attached to at least the first couple of Halloween movies. Like, I think the first Halloween is one of the best horror movies ever made. It is an absolute masterpiece.
Agreed.
I think the first Evil Dead is also that. The second one is good, and I'm not a massive fan of the third one.
Army of Darkness.
Just because it's not a horror. I like the craziness of those first ones within the sort of horror context. Totally. It's a good movie, but it's not what I was expecting, and maybe that's why. That's on me.
Quick aside, I went and got my haircut last week, and my barbershop had Evil Dead rocking on the TV there. I was like, this place gets me on such a fundamental level. I'm so happy I've been spending my time and money here for years. Like,
they get it. So when this popped up, I was like, okay, this is a cool idea. There's a couple screenshots. There wasn't like a ton of info. A really cool collector's edition was one of the things they announced. Like, things like that. Like, that doesn't necessarily sell me on a game, but I'm like, okay, I think they're going somewhere here. Like, they want to really take this seriously and do something different with it, but also make it feel new and old at the same time. And I think that's exactly what this game does. So basically, what it is like you said, it's a 2D side scroller. I would say it feels very 16-bit, sort of SNES Genesis era is probably the closest feel to it, with some newer mechanics that probably didn't exist or weren't capable of fitting on a cartridge back then. So it's a little bit of a new style mixed with what those games feel like. It looks like that. It sounds like that. I think the art style is really cool. It's definitely flashier than what you would get 30 years ago, but doesn't feel like it's not true to the sort of retro that the title gives you. So that's fun.
Right.
I'm not fully through it yet. I'm still just early because I just started playing it last night, but I've got a couple hours in each game. So essentially, if you want to sort of picture the game, you start in this like old building in first person view.
It's like an arcade.
It's an old arcade, and you choose which arcade you want to play. One arcade is based on Halloween, and you play as Halloween characters. The other one is Evil Dead. Yep. And you basically just go through like this sort of story that they've come up with that sort of you know, there's
loosely tied as both properties.
yeah, you're going through areas that you recognize or have heard of from the movies.
Yeah.
You're playing as Michael Myers, or you're playing as Ash, or the DLC characters, which you can access as well if you purchase
Kelly from
Evil Dead.
Ash. Yeah, Ash
Yeah.
versus the Evil Dead, or Laurie from Halloween.
Yeah, and each of these 4 characters have a slightly different feel, slightly different mechanics. I would say that Myers feels bulky and slower, which he should. He's a big hulking guy. Ash has a little bit more range to him because he's got his shotgun, obviously his boomstick and things like that. But largely, it's melee, going through these enemies that are kind of just walking back and forth or shooting things at you or whatever. Very similar to what you would get in that era that we were talking about, sort of like early to mid 90s kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know, it's very bloody. It's very much like every time you hit somebody, blood splatters on the screen, not just like on the floor or whatever, or body parts are flying everywhere. It's really just an excuse to have a bloody, mostly melee 16-bit looking and sounding game, and largely I'm having fun with it. Largely it's pretty good. I think it's sometimes it feels a little bit cheap against you, but I also excuse it when that happens sometimes, because I'm like, well, that's what games felt like 30 years ago.
Oh boy, yeah.
You know, it's a little bit more forgiving. You don't have like 3 lives and then you have to start from the beginning of the game. The checkpoint system is, you know, broken up into like about 15-20 minute increments of play at the most, maybe even less than that. And then there's a couple cool mechanics in there that are kind of fun. You can go between the real world and the
Dark Realm.
Dark Realm, that's it. So you just press a button. It's, you know, circle on the controller, or B, and you basically, like, the whole world turns from, you know, the jail that Michael Myers is in to like this bloody, disgusting mess of like demons.
It's like a demonic version of it. Yeah, there's like gross shit everywhere. Regular enemies turn into, you know, like
demons,
husks
and
of
stuff.
skin and stuff like that.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind that is that there's collectibles, especially, that you can only access by switching between the realms. So for example, in the Evil Dead ones, there's the Necronomicon. That's the full name, right?
Yeah.
So you get pages of that to collect in each level. Sometimes you can only access certain blocks or areas or walls that you can walk through in one realm or the other in order to collect it. And then you get some points and some money at the end to buy some upgrades for like new moves and things like that. Cool idea. I really like that. It actually, you can play the entire game without switching if you really wanted to, but every once in a while they give you like little mechanics. Oh, you have to duck under this, or you have to go through that wall or whatever. But for the most part, you don't have to collect everything. You can definitely get from A to B without doing that. But it's a cool way to kind of get that stuff done. And it changes up what the game feels like, because there's new enemies. There's different ways you have to sort of navigate and stuff like that. So I find it pretty fun. I'm going to keep going and try and make my way through the rest of each one of these. And I'm flipping characters. The only downside I see so far as the 4 different characters go is that you're playing the exact same levels. So if you're playing as Laurie or you're playing as Myers, it's the exact same game. They just control differently. She has a double jump and moves a little bit faster, but the pickups are the same, the enemies are the same, and in the same places. So it's like, okay, again, old school games, 2D platformers and action games, that's how they work anyways. It's like, oh, you played as Michelangelo or Raphael, it doesn't matter. It's the same game, right? And actually in those games, they controlled exactly the same, or very much anyway. So it's not a massive departure when you switch up the people that you play as, but at least it feels a little bit different. I just wish the levels were a little bit different. That's all. Because like, why is Laurie killing the exact same characters for a slightly different reason that Michael Myers is? Like, they give you like a little bit of text at the beginning, and you're like, I guess it.
That's the thing, is that they do kind of try to contextually change the game a little bit, or at least acknowledge the fact that you're playing as Laurie, or if you play as Ash in the Halloween world, or vice versa, they at least acknowledge it in some respect. And without giving too much away, there are some payoffs to that as well if you invest more time into it. But no, I definitely agree that the moment-to-moment gameplay, each game, like the Halloween version and then the Evil Dead version, they're broken up into like 5 worlds with 2 levels in between. So you get about 10 each to go through. So there's a lot of
in between too.
Exactly. There's a lot of content there, especially if
Yeah.
you are like, I'm going to go through every character on each side of it. That's quite
true.
a lot of levels, but
That's true.
there's not a huge amount of variation between the two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's fun. I mentioned sort of sometimes it feels like, oh, I'm jumping with Myers in an area that is like I'm barely making that jump every time.
Oh yeah.
And there's like these flying eyeballs coming across the screen, and I'm just like, I know this thing's coming, and I know it's there to make this jump difficult. I don't know why I can't get it without like it. But again, I'm not going to get too pissed about it because that's what these games are, right? At least it's still trying to do something different. It's having a fun time as well, making things extra bloody, and doing like goofy things. Every time you finish a level with Ash, he gets in his car and he drives over the sort of the zombies and they splatter all over the screen. And then it says level complete, like little things like that. It's fun. They find reasons to sort of make this the way that it is. And then I do think that the whole like old dusty arcade setting thing before you get into the games themselves is a cool idea. I don't know if you explored it at all, Steve, but
I went into the back room. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the back room is like collectibles and things like that.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, so I'm playing it on my ROG Ally, and so a little bit of context as well. When this was first announced, I was like, "Oh, buy the collector's edition," or not the collectors, the one below it. There's like 3 editions. You can buy one with like a Michael Myers plushie. And I was like, give me that one. I want that one. And then I received a code for this, and I still have my collector's edition on its way and everything. But I was like, okay, I'm going to play on the RG Ally. It's going to be my little, right before bed kind of thing, or, while I'm around the house. But I've noticed that going into or just exploring the arcade itself before launching into any of the levels, I'm finding like a lot of performance issues. And I don't know if that's just because it's on the ROG Ally, or maybe you're experiencing that. It's just a lot of like frame rate issues as I'm walking around.
I haven't found anything yet. Mine's on PS5, so obviously a different machine running it and stuff. I haven't found any issues whatsoever. It's running fine. Load times are almost non-existent and stuff. So no, I haven't found any issues with it. The thing is about the arcade thing I want to mention too is that you go to the back and you can you collect like these tickets, like movie tickets, I think they are. And you can sort of unlock like different, weapons and items that you find in the games. And it's like, okay, it's a little collector's thing, not a massive thing. I think when you finish a world with a certain amount of points or maybe a certain amount of collectibles, you also get this little 3D diorama that you can look at for each world, which I thought was really cool. And then there's a room where you can watch really short videos on like a VHS on like a CRT TV of different ways that the games were made, like the audio.
I haven't checked that out yet. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's right by the entrance when you first go to your right. It unlocks after you, I think, I don't know, play it for a couple hours or something. I can't remember when it did.
Yeah. I briefly took a skim through that because I was like, oof, I'm getting a little hiccups here. But then once I launch into any of the levels, pitch perfect, like no issues there. It's just, I wonder. Yeah, I'm interested because I have my collector's edition is I think for Switch, so I'm interested to play it again on Switch and see what it's like.
Yeah. And then the last thing about the sort of overworld, I guess if you want to call it that, is that I thought this may be going in, and I was like, okay, because it's Retro Realms, and then it has Halloween and Ash versus Evil Dead. It's like, okay, it's very specific, and you're going into these arcade machines, and then beside those arcade machines, there's other ones that are covered with sheets. I don't know if you noticed that. So I wouldn't be surprised if Retro Realms is going to be, because it's an old arcade, other properties, whether they're horror or not. They might not be. It could be an alien one. I don't know how the distribution or licensing, all those things work, right? Maybe it could just be more of a cartoon or whatever. So I think that if this does well enough, or if they have licensing already in process for other things, Retro Realms will sort of be like a hub for other
would be
games, and you can
so
switch between them.
damn cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be really cool. So I think that might be it, because I think there's 2 or
2
3
Yeah, I think there's
that are
2.
covered. So
Yeah,
it's like either they already know that something's coming, or that's the plan going forward if this does well and things like that. And I think this deserves to do pretty well. I think it's pretty fun. And I think that it's like I don't know, it's super gory for like a cartoony looking game and stuff. And I think that they're going over the top with it in a good way.
yeah,
It's not incredible. I don't think it's the greatest, sort of new retro action game I've played, but I think that they've got enough differentiation between move sets that there's enough here that even if you played through each one with 2 of the characters or 3, that's enough. You don't even have to do the crossover thing where Ash plays in Halloween and vice versa. You could get away with just doing it as the main characters, and I think you'd probably still have a pretty good time and get some use out of it. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Again, to your point, I think that it's not the end all be all of, genre defining platforming and everything, but it does remind me of going back to, Blockbuster on a Friday, getting a SNES game, a licensed SNES game, playing through it for a weekend and stuff like that. And it's got a bit of a challenge to it. It's not too long. To your point of like not having to go through and repeat every single level. But I wanted to quickly go back to your point of like the uncovered or the covered arcade cabinets.
Yeah.
Because the game is sold separately. So you can either buy the Ash versus Evil Dead side, Halloween side, or a bundle unlocking both games. So there is potential that, at a certain point, they're like, here's Nightmare on Elm Street, or here's, I don't know, another classic slasher. Here's, I don't know.
I went to
Play. I think that would be cool. Yeah,
that'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, because you could do wild things with that too, right? Like, I went to Alien because I was like, I started watching Romulus earlier today, so that's and that's like one of my favorite sort of thriller series or whatever. But they could do that. And honestly, even if it's not horror, I think that would be kind of fine. Like, I think the engine and the way that this game's made, and these games are made, I think you could really like still have some fun with this, regardless of what the property is. So,
for sure.
But I think they do kind of do over the top with all the blood and the guts and the enemies and the realms, and like, it would definitely have to be a different context and all of it, but they could definitely still have the same mechanics and the same controls and the same idea in a different property, even if it wasn't horror. But if that's the way that they're going, maybe every year they come out with like a double feature pack like it did with this, and you get 2 new horror games. I think that would be great for a couple of years. I think that would keep me coming back to this every year and playing it every September or October. I think that would be a really cool idea and worthwhile, honestly.
I agree. Dave, before we wrap things up, I want to hear about Neva. Oh, geez, I butchered that. I'm so sorry.
I didn't know until they were saying it in the game either, so it's okay. Neva is from the creators that did. Now it's Gree. I'm pretty sure.
It is
pretty sure it's Gree.
I know that one. Yeah,
I know that one. That game I played a couple years or maybe a year after it came out. I found it on sale on Switch. I played it and I just loved it. I think it was amazing. So last year or earlier this year, when Nomada Studios announced that they were making, or that their next game was coming out this year, immediately I'm like, well, I'm playing this no matter how it happens, like, for sure. Similarly to their previous game, it is beautiful, it plays well, and it is emotional as hell. It is awesome. I think this game is a piece of art in every way possible. It is one of the best games I've played this year, no question. Partially due to the gameplay is like good and simple enough and fun, but it's almost like an afterthought to it. Not an afterthought as in like they didn't think about it, because it's very refined, it's very tight. I never had any issues with it. I was never like frustrated in any way whatsoever, but just the way that it looks and the way that everything moves and the way the characters it's just a beautiful experience with the way it looks and how they play out the story from the start to the finish. It's a short sort of 4.5 to 5.5 hours, depending on if you're, having some trouble in some combat areas, or if you're looking for the minimal amount of collectibles that are in this and stuff. There's some puzzle mechanics in order to collect some things. But it's just like you go from area to area, you go through the seasons of a year, and you're just similar to Gree. It's not complex in a lot of ways. Some of the traversal stuff is definitely more skill based now. There's a little bit more of precision platforming to it than there was in Gree. Like you're jumping and off walls and sort of gliding in certain areas and a few double jumps and chaining things together a lot more. But if you've ever played anything that's a really difficult, precision platformer in the last decade, you've probably played a more difficult one than this is. And that's fine. This doesn't have to be a difficult game. It's really just here to give you some cool moments within a story in a world that is just incredible, I think. I gave this a 10 out of 10, this game. It is super, super special. And it was like, I think conveying humor and doing sort of really emotional things in games can be tough. Like
for sure,
to convey something that's going to make you really touch something personal, like shed a tear or two or something. It's tough. I'm not that person with games for some reason that often. This 100% got me. It got me at the end, especially at the beginning. I was like, wow, this is shocking. This is a surprising start. This is a great start to the game. And then as the game goes on, you really connect to these characters and the relationship that Neva, which is the sort of deer wolf character that you'll see on the cover and in the gameplay and stuff. And then Alba is the character that you control. She has like a really cool sword and double jumps and moves and things like that. Their relationship just grows with like next to no voice work other than her calling Neva every once in a while when you press the triangle or Y button. That's how this game communicates, and it's all visual. Just like Gree, it is a visual experience with some beautiful music, an incredible art. No matter, like, I could have taken screenshots every single frame that I was playing this game for 5 hours, and it would be a beautiful picture. It's incredible. It's dark, but also bright at the same time. It's very colorful, but also has dark moments.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think this game's amazing. If I'd say take a look at some of the gameplay. If you're not sure if like something like this is your type of game, just take a look at the gameplay. You don't necessarily even have to look too deep into it, because it's really not about that. It's just an additional feature, and it's still pretty fun. The puzzles are pretty simple, but also a couple brain teasers, but nothing's going to frustrate you or take forever to figure out. It communicates all of its, puzzles and worlds and enemies very well. So everything feels like you can understand everything without it having to put a bunch of text on the screen or someone explain something to you. I think that's an amazing, beautiful thing in games. And it's a game that's going to sit with me for a very long time. It was incredible.
Love it. Yeah, no, that's a game that I definitely want to get to at some point, just because I've heard so many people talk about how emotional it is and how beautiful it is. And it's certainly a game that seems up my alley. I love Gree. So I'm definitely going to check that out at some point.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Awesome game.
Great. Well, that about wraps up this episode of the Creature Cast. Bobby, if people wanted to connect with you and the website, where could they do so?
Find us at consolecreatures.com. Check your social feed. We're on everything. Linktree in my bio, B Pashalides. Take it from there. Everything's there. Follow us on everything.
Amazing. Dave, great to see you. Great to see us, reclaim and rejoice the trifecta right here. Let's do it. Let's do it up here. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Right there.
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack. Whoa. Dave, where can people keep up with you when you're doing dad shit?
Yeah, when I am and am not, I will be Dave Petro across social media and here at Console Creatures. I'm going to have a review on the Retro Realms game at Console Creatures, as well as I continue to work through it. You can find my video review and written review of Neva as well on our YouTube channel or on the website. So you can see the visuals and hear me talk about it as well. We have a couple other like new video reviews as well that Matt has done as well, so that's awesome as well. So
Shout out Matt. We love Matt.
yeah,
That's good shit.
he's okay. He's all right.
Yeah, he's good.
He's okay. Yeah,
He's good.
Steve, what about you? Where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me. I'm glad you asked, Dave. I'm glad you asked. You can find me across the internet at @svigvari. We really appreciate you all for tuning in and listening to this episode. We'll be back next week with even more fun stuff. It's gaming season. We got tons to talk about, but until then, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.